Hi there, sweet friends, and welcome to the Harbor Breeze Home Podcast. I'm Rita Joy, your host, and today's topic is going to take us all to the spa. So if you feel like you're in need of a good, relaxing experience with a dose of laughter, stick around for some funny stories and hear about the spa gift experience that was better than therapy for me. Oh, friend, I'm pretending you're sitting right beside me right now. Picture this. This is where we are. We're outside on my little patio deck surrounded by a few blooming flowers in the patio planters. The sky is blue, the sun is shining, and there's the most delightful little breeze. It's the perfect temperature ever. Are you still picturing it? You and I both have our feet stuck in some soapy water in our pedicure dishpans, surrounded by lotions, potions, and polishes. Yep, you heard that right. I decided to write this podcast about spas, fully immersed in an at-home spa experience right now. I'm dictating my notes into the microphone function of my iPad and hoping my neighbors don't catch me talking to myself. I was just telling my sister on the phone the other day that some days I feel like I'm running out of topics for this podcast. Side note, give me any ideas if you have some. Take this morning, for instance. My to-do list tells me that today I should record a podcast. But when I woke up this morning, I didn't have a hot clue what to talk about. I also needed to give myself a pedicure since we're going to a fancy schmancy place for lunch tomorrow and needed to get that done. As both of these items were in my thoughts, it quickly turned into this 2-for-1 situation. Added to my thought process is at the time of this writing, my sister from Montana is going to be arriving for a visit in just over a week. I can't even tell you how excited I am about that. Where we live up here in Canada definitely isn't on the way anywhere, although cruise ships to Alaska sail by every summer. So getting visitors from my home state of Montana is very rare indeed. My brother came up to visit 25 years ago and declared it would probably be easier to get to Timbuktu than to my house. One of the things I did when my sister booked her trip up here this time was to book a spa appointment for the two of us. A few years ago, I decided that the next time both of my sisters or either of them were to come up here, the first thing I was going to do was march them to a West Coast Canadian spa. I'm telling you what, girls, they know how to spa up here. I stumbled onto my first spa experience by sheer coincidence many years ago. Although I just mentioned that most of my Montana relatives don't come up here very often to visit, my mom and dad did come up to visit us at least once a year, a tradition for which I'm so very grateful. Another tradition that eventually came was that my mom always liked to get her hair cut by her favorite hairdresser when she was here. In anticipation of one of her upcoming visits, I discovered when I went to make her appointment that her hairdresser had moved to a new place that was a spa. When the day of her appointment arrived, we drove to this new-to-me place, which was absolutely gorgeous, by the way, walked in the door, and was greeted with the most serene and beautiful environment. Soft spa music was playing in the background, and to the left of a huge, large lobby room was a brick wall with a floor-to-ceiling waterfall feature. A sweet lady greeted us like a hostess, took us to some soft, comfy, cozy chairs, and asked us if we'd like something to drink. Coffee, tea, or cranberry juice, she asked. As she went to get our drinks, my mom whispered over to me frantically, "Oh dear, how much is this going to cost? I only have $100 bill in my wallet, and I don't know if that'll pay for my haircut." She always had a carefully allotted amount of Canadian cash when she came up to visit, so she wanted to use it wisely. I told her I actually had no idea how much it would cost, but I hoped it wouldn't be that much. If I remember correctly, it was the cost of a normal haircut back then. But before we left that place, I fell in love with the spa and wanted to figure out how to get there more often. I went home and did some more research. I found out there were all kinds of services offered along with the hairdressing salon. There were things to choose from like massages, facials, manicures, pedicures, and esthetician services. Most of the things were far out of my budget, but getting your eyebrows waxed was the absolute cheapest thing on the list. So every now and then, I'd treat myself to that just so I could have a teeny tiny spa experience. Then fast forward to the time in my life where I was experiencing panic attacks on a daily basis. You can hear about that in episode 9. I had one dear friend who stuck with me during that super difficult time in my life. She would call me regularly to check up on me, and on one particularly difficult day after a horrifically awful week, she called me up and asked this question: "Would you use a gift certificate for an all-day spa experience?" I remember that trying to form an answer was difficult at that time. My mind was racing with mostly the thought that I could never afford such a luxury and how would I ever pay it back, and answered something to that effect. "No, that's not my question," she said kindly. "I'm just asking if you'd feel comfortable going to a spa for a whole day of treatments." "Well," I said, I don't really know what that means, but yeah, I think so." She said, "Okay, I'll make you an appointment. All you have to do is show up." Oh, friends, one of the questions I get on a regular basis is, what are some ways you can help friends who are grieving or hurting for any reason? The first thing that many people think of is taking meals or a special gift like flowers, which are both very good ideas. But this gift of a all-day spa treatment where all I had to do was show up, this gift was actually life-changing for me. Let me explain. The situation we were in at the time was very confusing and frightening for me. Although it was not true, let me say it again, although it was not true, I felt like no one liked me anymore. I didn't know who my real friends were and who was pretending to be one so they could play a trick on me later. Life felt like a big riddle at the time, and I was trying desperately to be as invisible as possible. And honestly, people just sort of liked that and left me alone. I felt like recycled trash was cared for more than I was. Again, I know that isn't the truth in my head, but in my heart, that's how it felt. So to be given an over-the-top luxurious gift of a spa treatment at that time in my life made a difference. It made a very, very big difference. I remember walking into the spa that day on shaky legs. I hadn't been sleeping well for weeks. I was physically and emotionally exhausted. When I approached the reception desk and announced my name, the lady kindly welcomed me and told me that my day spa treatment included lunch and I needed to put in my order. Remember, I was struggling with constant panic attacks, and that question brought up a fresh panic again. I absolutely had no appetite at the time, and I didn't have any idea what I should order for lunch when she handed me the menu. I don't know to this day if my friend had alerted the spa to my fragile state or if that kind lady just read my face well, but I'll never forget her gently stepping in and saying, "You know, the turkey sandwich with cranberry sauce topping is the most popular lunch item. How about if we order that for you?" I could have hugged her neck for saving me from having to make that decision. The odd thing about that panic season in my life that's hard to explain is that along with being nearly frozen with fear and panic, I was also determined to boldly try new things, which isn't my normal personality at all. Nothing was going to stop me. What was the worst thing that could happen anyway? I figured I was already living through a worst case scenario, so why not try anything? So when a man greeted me at the desk to take me to my first spa treatment, I thought, oh boy, here we go. I have no idea what's ahead, but I'm going to do this thing, doggone it, and it's going to be fun. You see, the first spa treatment was a detoxifying mud bath treatment. As I was getting ready to go to the spa that morning, I remember wondering what on earth I was supposed to bring. Do I need to take a swimsuit? Will a person be in the room while I'm taking this spa tub thing? Do they give me a robe or something? I couldn't find anything online giving me the step-by-step instructions on how to go to a spa for the first time, and what on earth do you wear there? So I decided to be proactive. I would just ask questions when I got there, but I did pack a swimsuit along. Having a man greet me for the first treatment was unexpected, but I treated him like I did my male doctors. I figured he was a professional at his job too, so I'd try not to be awkward about the situation. He led me into a room that was like a locker room and assigned me a locker that held a lovely white robe and slippers. I told him, okay, I've never been to anything like this before, so you're going to have to walk me through this. And he did. I then asked him if I'd be alone in the room for the mud bath treatment, to which he replied, yes, I'd be alone and I could lock the door. Okay, no swimsuit needed. Perfect. So I got myself all ready and tied up that fluffy white robe and headed into the hallway where he led me to my first treatment. A tub was all full with the perfect temperature of water, and he poured in a cup full of the magic mud bath treatment granules and explained how the process would work. I will leave, he said, and then you can lock the door behind me and get in the tub, lay back and relax. Then just push this button here and jets will go off and systematically massage your body. When it's over, it will be a nice little beep, and then you can get out. A pitcher of ice water with a cup was nearby, and he encouraged me to drink lots of water as the detoxifying mud bath would make me thirsty. We're going to get back to that part later. Then he left the room. I did just as he instructed. I sunk into that warm bath and laid my head against the back of the tub, pushed the button, and closed my eyes. Like magic, jets started to pulse water into muscles that were so sore and fatigued, and it felt like heaven to me, in more ways than one. As I laid there with my eyes closed, it was as if I could hear Jesus whisper really quietly in my ears, I love you. You can rest now. And I did. In fact, I fell asleep multiple times throughout that treatment. After the mud bath treatment was over, I was escorted up the stairs and into another room where I was greeted by a massage therapist. He asked me if there were any areas of concern I had, and I didn't even know what to say. I'd never had a massage before. That's okay, he said. I'll quickly figure out what I need to work on. I got myself all situated on that massage table with my face down in the padded little hole, and he began to work. He'd only worked for a few seconds when he exclaimed, oh my goodness, your back is a mess. Just keep on breathing and I'll work it all out. As he rubbed my sore and aching muscles and targeted knots I didn't even know I had, it was as if his hands were Jesus' hands, saying, I love you. You can rest now. And I did. It was the one and only time I fell asleep during a massage. Treatment after treatment that day all ended the same way. A facial, a manicure, a pedicure. I fell asleep at them all. That day, I felt like those kind people at the spa were the hands and feet of Jesus. They ministered to me, and I left feeling cared for and loved again. I've always wished I could thank that spa and those people for how much it and they meant to me that day. But I've struggled with how to tell them without it becoming a log saga, so I'm hoping in some miraculous way they might hear this today. But it really did make a huge difference in my life. It was one of the things that God used to help me in the road of healing. I started to sleep better, and soon after my appetite started to return again, and eventually all the panic attacks stopped. And on another note, remember that detoxifying mud bath treatment? I'm telling you what, those magic granules really did do something. I'm convinced that stress must make you retain fluids, because after that, I lost so much built up fluid in my body for days that I lost weight. It was my very favorite weight loss treatment I've ever had, even though it didn't claim to be one at all. Never since that day have I indulged in an all-day spa treatment experience. However, it did me so much good that I convinced my husband to go to a spa with me for massages. He will unashamedly tell you that he loves spas too. In fact, we treat ourselves to at least one spa experience a year together and would highly recommend it to anyone. I'll link up in the show notes some of our favorite spas here on Vancouver Island. I know that some of you have similar spas in your area too, but if you don't, these are world-renowned and people travel from all over the world to go to them. So you just might want to too. And no, none of them have paid me to say that, but brace yourselves, it's not cheap. On another note, I want to give a shout out to anyone listening who happens to work in an industry similar to what I've described today. Blessings to you. You minister to people in very practical ways on a daily basis. Maybe you don't get very many thank yous, so I'm thanking you today. Send this podcast to all your friends who need to hear a similar thank you. You guys have a bigger impact on the hearts of people than you probably realize, and I'm here to tell you, I and so many of us appreciate you so much. And if a friend or spouse is asking for gift ideas for you, you just might want to suggest a spa treatment at a place where you get to sit in fluffy white robes and slippers and are served cold cranberry juice. Thank you so much, sweet friends, for listening to today's podcast. If you want to see what else is going on at Harbor Breeze Home, head on over to the blog, which will be linked in the show notes. You'll find all kinds of tips and tricks on homemaking and lots of recipes if you need some ideas for dinner time or dessert, which is my favorite. Have a great week. Toodaloo!